When first starting this project, I wasn't quite sure which route I wanted to take. I wasn't sure between reality gestalt, motivational, and cognitive behavioral therapy which therapy would best suit me and my interests. After looking back on high school, I realized that I was very interested in psychology, the way people think, the way they react to what they think. So, cognitive behavioral therapy really spoke to me simply because of the name, the way individuals think, and the way they act. Cognitive behavioral therapy is the process of therapy based off of what an individual thinks, feels, and how they act. This therapy focuses on emotional, mental, and physical aspects of an individual's life. It's based off of three levels of cognitive development. Core beliefs is the first. That's simply how an individual feels. For example, it made me think of kind of growing up, what your mom and dad and family and society kind of makes an individual think or feel in a certain way. Second is the dysfunctional assumptions. This is holding an idea that an individual must live by. Whenever I looked at this, it made me think of religious beliefs. Some individuals hold a very high devoted religious life, so they live exactly how their religion tells them to, and then others who aren't so devoted may have seen these acts as absurd or not right for the individual. Finally, the negative automatic thoughts. These are thoughts that just automatically come to an individual in a certain circumstance. For me, when I was looking at this, my natural reaction is to help individuals in any circumstance it is. So it's not really negative for me, but when looking in this therapy, there are negative assumptions with this. Cognitive behavioral therapy was created by two men from two separate theories beforehand. Albert Ellis created the rational emotive behavioral therapy. This was derived from a set of ideas that propel an individual through their life. This was created in the 1950s. The basic irrational assumptions were ideas that made people make mistakes or unjust assumptions about individuals. Secondly, common irrational assumptions is the process of seeking affection from others. I think I noticed this most in high school. Boys and girls both were constantly seeking approval from their peers. The second theory is the cognitive therapy. Aaron T. Beck created this in the 1960s. This is similar to Albert Ellis's theory. However, it mainly focused on treatment of depression. With that being said, cognitive behavioral therapy now treats a broad range of mental illnesses and disorders, starting with phobias, eating disorders, depression, ADHD. Phobias are defined as the extreme irrational fear. When I first heard phobias beforehand, I knew it was an irrational fear. However, I didn't realize how many symptoms accompany this, with high anxiety levels, fear of being with others in the circumstances. Whenever treating this, the process is slightly rigorous. They observe patterns that an individual encounters whenever they encounter their fear. And once that is done, they begin to unpair these thoughts with this irrational fear that they have. This leads to more positive thoughts whenever the action happens. Like phobias, eating disorders is often treated roughly the same way. It's a little more rigorous with testing. Cognitive behavioral therapy, when used with eating disorders, looks at two different evaluations. The cognitive evaluation on how an individual views themselves, their self-esteem, and then the behavioral aspect, which is, do they binge eat? Do they purge? Are they on a diet? All of these things go into effect on how an individual will be treated. They first redirect thoughts to create a positive body image, and once that's done, they stabilize a plan to cut down on behavioral issues. So once the individual has these positive thoughts, they go in through this rigorous behavioral aspect. So the positive thoughts lead to positive behavioral actions. When dealing with ADHD, it tends to be less disorder treatment based and more symptom treatment based. They often pair medication with the therapy, which helps lower the severity of symptoms. And it helps lower the rate of occurrence. Depression impacts over 18 million adults within 1 year, so this therapy is very prevalent in treating depression. It's also paired with medication and therapy like ADHD is. The medication helps treat symptoms while the therapy assists in the rehabilitation of thoughts. It's fairly similar to phobias. It starts with thoughts that an individual feels whenever they are going through depression, and then they try to unpair these thoughts and lead to more positive thoughts that will be accompanying with it. Individuals pair medication with therapy simply because the therapy alone is only 50% effective, roughly, while medication is also only 50 to 75% effective alone. Whenever paired, the therapy and medication can go up to about 75 to 90% effective for most individuals, which I think is very high based off of what I saw from other therapies, their success rate. I think that this use of therapy can help alter individuals' negative thoughts that can help them lead to more helpful thoughts and could potentially help them help others in their shoes as well. By continuing these use of methods, we can provide long-term treatment for clients, not just short-term for a few months, weeks, or a few years. This long-term treatment means we alter the way that they think, which could benefit changing times, diagnosis, populations. I think the more we look into this therapy, the more likely we are to treat more than just these few disorders and illnesses. The likelihood is endless.